striking beauty and size. These are coral reefs. Almost 3,000 individual reefs cover more than 2,000 kilometres off the North Queensland coast. Together, they make up the largest group of reefs in the world, the Great Barrier Reef. In the far north section of the Great Barrier Reef, individual reefs run like ribbons, following the line of the coast, some as long as 25 kilometres. Further south, between Cairns and Mackay, the reefs are more scattered. Some rise like underwater mountains, solid forms as high as 10-storey buildings. Others surround islands like Green Island and Hayman Island. In lower North Queensland, there are huge groups of reefs as far as 300 kilometres off the coast. The reefs are alive and growing. They're made by living creatures called coral. Millions of tiny animals which live in hard limestone houses of different shapes, sizes and colours. Growing from the seabed up to the surface, the corals group together, forming the living reefs. Some corals grow on old reefs, mounds made from the skeletons of corals that have died over the years. Corals need light from the sun to grow. But most of the ocean is too deep for sunlight to reach the bottom. This is why the corals grow on the continental shelf, the shallow seabed which surrounds Australia. The waters of the shelf in northern Queensland are clearer than most coastal waters, and the sun enters easily. And in this part of Australia, it's warm all year round. But this hasn't always been the case. 25 million years ago, Australia was much further south in colder latitudes than it is today. But slowly, it drifted north. And 2 million years ago, the North Queensland coast lodged in the warm waters of what is now the Coral Sea. The conditions were ideal for corals to grow. Since then, the level of the sea has changed. At times, it's dropped below the continental shelf, and without water, whole reefs have died. But when the seas have risen, new corals have grown. The latest growth started about 8,000 years ago, when the sea settled at its present level. All of the reefs have a similar structure. They have an outer wall of coral which protects a flat inner section. The outer section, which faces the open seas, has to deal with strong waves. As a result, the corals grow high and strong, building themselves up like barriers to take the force. Despite the turbulence, corals thrive. The water is clear and there's plenty of food. The inner section of the reef is called the reef flat. Here, there's less food, and sand stirred up by the waves clouds the water. It can be harder for corals to grow, so they fan out to catch the sun. The reefs support the richest variety of marine life in the world. Millions of different types of plants and animals thrive in the warm, clear waters. The largest fish on the reef is the whale shark, which grows up to 18 metres long. Butterfly fish have specially developed pointy mouths, which help them feed in the small nooks and crannies of the sharp coral. The coral is an ideal place for fish of all sizes to find shelter. The number of fish is one of the things that has brought people to the reefs. North Queensland has a huge commercial fishing industry, with boats operating out of major coastal towns such as Cairns and Mackay.
Get him in.
Coral trout and sweetlip are caught on the reefs all year round. And during summer months, valuable tiger prawns are found in waters north of Cairns. Tourism is another booming industry. People come from all over the world to explore the Great Barrier Reef. And a thriving tourist industry caters for their every need. Tourism is widespread. Every reef in the Barrier Reef group offers something different. Fast planes and boats mean more and more people can get to the reefs. But the increasing numbers can cause problems. On the heavily visited reefs, such as those off Green and Hayman Islands, tour operators have been forced to control tourist numbers. There are many factors which affect how well corals survive. Reefs growing closest to the mainland have to deal with rivers. The rivers dump mud, sand and silt in the sea. Sometimes whole sections of reef are buried. Large rivers like the Burdekin near Townsville flow into the sea all year round, and there's runoff from smaller rivers during flooding. The fresh water from the rivers can also affect growth, as corals need salt water to survive. Sometimes the water washing over corals is polluted. A natural threat to the reefs is the crown-of-thorns starfish. It eats the coral. Tour guides see the starfish as a real problem, especially if they damage beautiful reefs that visitors want to enjoy. But destruction isn't always bad. Sometimes it leads to new life. Many islands of the Barrier Reef are actually formed through the destruction of coral. It can start with these parrotfish. They eat the coral, their strong jaws grinding it to sand. This sand is swept up with other reef rubble, like crushed shells and plants, and dumped by the waves. Over time, the sand can build up. It may even rise above the surface of the water to become an island called a cay. Over time, vegetation can grow. A new tropical island is formed. The Great Barrier Reef has survived, continuing to grow and change for thousands of years. But it's a fragile environment, and it's been recognised as an area which needs protection. In 1975, the Great Barrier Reef became a marine park, which prevented oil exploration in the area. In 1983, the whole reef system was made a World Heritage Area. It's taken its place as one of the most prized possessions on Earth. And it's the only sign of life on this planet that is large enough to be seen from the moon. A massive living structure made by tiny animals.